Now, the prophetic is a room. And when you are anointed into that room, there are things in that room that hears your voice. And you should also be trained to hear the voice of the things in that room. That is why when you begin to operate in the prophetic office, you are expected to hear the voices, not only the voice of God, but the voice of everything. Because sometimes it is not only God that will speak to you as a prophet. If you're a prophet and you think that the only voice that is necessary is the voice of God, trust me, you will get it wrong. Because you also need the ability to understand the voice of Satan, the voice of the enemy, the voice of the devil, so that understanding the voice of the devil will help you ignore the voice of the devil. You should know how the enemy speaks. So to grow in this ministry, you should not only focus on hearing the voice of God, but you should also focus on hearing and understanding the voice of the enemy. It's very important. But there is the prophetic room, and in that prophetic room, everything is expected to hear you, and everything is expected to understand whatever you are saying. And you too, you are trained to hear everything in that environment. So the prophet must also understand his office and then his room. And in understanding that, you must understand everything that is in that atmosphere. It's very important. There are many people who actually struggle when it comes to this thing. You see, I have had countless number of people who walked to me and who actually told me that they had a problem. And what is their problem? They always hear God once and they will never hear him again until it is over. So they just hear God once. God will just speak once. And after the Lord speak once, that ends it. God will not speak again. Is it actually true that the Lord will just speak to you once and the Lord will not speak again? So what will be the profit of God if he only speak to you once and he will not speak again? What then is the profit of God? There's no profit in that. So God himself wants to speak to you. So the ones you heard and you never heard, that was not how God designed it. And that was not how God expected it to go. As a matter of fact, as a prophet, you need to train yourself to have multiple sources of information. You should grow and train yourself to understand you have multiple sources of information. Your source of information should not be one. You should have multiple sources of information. So you should not hear only from one way. There should be several ways of hearing, several methods of hearing from God. You should train yourself where you get to that level, you hear from God in several ways. It should not be one way. That is the reason why you heard Michael and you never heard again. Because you don't have multiple sources of information. Your information is only one source, one way information. And that is actually dangerous. To grow as a prophet of God, you need multiple sources of information. Because you should grow to that extent that even the objects in the environment can speak to you and you will hear. The environment, the corridors of your house, the chairs in your house, the tables around you. You should be able to discern the voice of every living and non-living thing around you. That is growing your ability as a prophet. So there is a prophetic room, and in that room, not only God speak, even non-living things speak. One gentleman came here and I was praying for him. I was attending to him. And the gentleman told me, that the tree at the back of my church, do I know that before he entered the church, the tree spoke to him? He was actually those people like the diviners. So he was trying to let me know that before he entered this church, the tree spoke to him. He heard the tree speaking. I didn't doubt him. Why didn't I doubt him? Because it is possible. Trees can speak. If you can hear trees, you can hear trees. The only problem is that how was he able to hear? What method did he use to hear that? You see, he was able to discern and hear the voice of the tree. But it was not actually the right source. But he still had access to the voice of the tree. And he wanted to find out from me if I am able to hear the voice. You get it? So he's inquiring from the prophet if the prophet is able to hear the voice outside his church, the voice of the tree outside his church. Now, I want you to get something very well. When you desire to walk in the prophetic ministry, one of the things you should desire is also your ability to hear the voices around you that are not even from God. You should understand the voice of the enemy, understand the voice of God, grow your ability where you can differentiate the voice of the devil from the voice of God. And you will never be able to differentiate the voice of God from the voice of the devil until you understand how the devil speak and how God speak. There are many people here, their problem is that they hear, but they are not sure whether it was from God or it's from the devil. There are many people that contact me. How will I know this is the Lord that was speaking to me? So their problem is not hearing. Their problem actually is what? Differentiating whose voice was it? Whose voice did I hear? Was it the voice of God, or it was my own voice, or it was the voice of the enemy? In the prophetic, we don't just train you to hear God and to understand the voice of God. We equally train you to understand the voice of the enemy, that when he speaks, you will know that this is the devil speaking. Jesus made a statement. He said, my sheep heareth me and they obey my voice. So he was stating it that my sheep, they know my voice. How will you know a voice until you understand and hears that voice often? If you are passing by and somebody is playing a video and I'm the one speaking, you will know I'm the one, because you have heard that voice over and over and over. If it is not me, you will equally know. You don't need to discern and pray about it before you know this is the voice of Prophet David. You will know because you are familiar with my voice. I have my own special tonation that is different from every man. You will not understand and differentiate it if you have never heard my voice. If it is your first time hearing me and they ask you who is the one speaking, you will not be able to tell. Why? You do not know my voice and you do not understand my voice. So he said, my sheep heareth my voice and they obey that voice. So the only way to know either it is the Lord speaking or the devil speaking is to understand both of them, their voices. Understand how the devil speaks. There is a way the devil speaks and there is a way God himself speaks. There is always a pattern to both of them. When the Lord is speaking, if you are familiar with the voice of God, you will know that this is God. When the devil too is speaking, you will know that this is the devil speaking. They all have their patterns. They have a way they speak. So as a man of God and as a believer, one of the things you should understand is that don't just strive to know how Jesus speaks. Understanding how the devil also speaks will help your prophetic ministry, so that you will not be a victim and a casualty of demonic voices. Somebody will speak and it will look like that is the Lord speaking. Meanwhile, it is never the Lord. It was never God who spoke to you. Now, watch this. Genesis 12 verses 1. Do you know that you can grow and train yourself as a believer, as a man of God and as a prophet to understand you hears everything, including things spoken before you were born? It is possible. You understand what was spoken. You were not there when it was spoken, but immediately you get to that environment. The environment will relay the information to you. If you are staying in an environment, for example, you have a house and you leave that house, and after you left that house, you return. And after you return back to the house, you discover that people have entered the house. And after they have entered the house, it does not matter what they have done in that house. You left the house. There's no CCTV cameras in the house. There's no camera in the bedroom, in the hall. There's nothing like that. And you travel and you return back. And after you return, somebody was in the house. If you really have a relationship with the things in that house, even the couch, the TV, the walls of the house, your bed should be able to tell you that in your absence, so and so came to the house. When you were not there, Michael came to the house. The atmosphere should be able to relay that information to you. And I was saying that as a prophet, when I enter a house, I should be able to tell who and who have lived in that house before you are now living in that house. How did I know that? In the book of Genesis, the Bible said Abraham had a meeting with God. The environment where the meeting took place heard the conversation. Whatever the Lord told Abraham, the environment heard it. So it was not Abraham alone who actually heard what was spoken. The stones heard what was spoken. The trees heard what was spoken. The atmosphere himself heard what was spoken. Even the stones recorded the encounter. The atmosphere took notice and said, the Lord visited me. So this must go on record, so that the next generation, I can boast and tell the next generation that once upon a time, I was visited by the creator of the universe. So the environment was even happy and excited that the Lord visited, that they took notice, and there was a portal that was created there. And when Jacob came to have a rest, a nap, the stone brought up the encounter. When Jacob woke up, he said, surely the Lord is here and I never knew. The Lord was never there until Abraham went there. And the atmosphere sustained that dimension. The atmosphere himself pleaded with God, let this dimension stay forever and ever. So the voice of God is too powerful to speak, and only you will hear it. When the voice of God speaks, or whenever the Lord speaks, it is not only you that hears. The walls hears. The trees hears. Everything there can hear. It is just that they've not been given the permission to express what have been heard. Jesus entering Jerusalem, when they asked the people to shut up because they were making noise, Jesus said, I'm telling you the truth. If you ask these people to shut up, the stones, the rocks, the mountains, they will scream for joy. Which means they are not screaming because I have not given them permission, but they can scream. So you shut these people up and these ones will start screaming. So it is just the Lord who haven't given them the permission to speak, but they can witness whatever is happening there. The encounters that are happening there, the atmosphere themselves can witness it. Mountain Gilboa. When Saul died on top of that mountain, David, being a spiritual man, cursed the mountain. Why would the mountain participate in the death of the anointed? The mountain could have refused and rejected that. But David, being a spiritual man, said, "O thou mountain, you shall not experience rain or dew until the ends of the world." From that day up until now, the mountain is still suffering the consequences of participating in the death. God made a statement. He said, who created the blacksmith? Who gave him the strength to create the weapons? I am the Lord who created them. And I'm the same person who gave that blacksmith the wisdom to create the weapons. And he went ahead and said, no weapon formed against you shall prosper, or every tongue shall succeed. Now, you should now sit down and look at it. Which means weapons even participate in the death of men. Weapons participate. Cars participate. There is a realm that we will get to, we will discover that everything can participate either to your success or your downfall. Environments can participate. How many of you have the Lord spoken to through your motto, and yet you submitted your motto? You are going to visit that your girlfriend and your motto spoiled. Instead of you to discern the voice of God, that it is the Lord speaking to you through the car, you will leave the car and go and rent another car, and that car too will spoil. You will start walking. It will start raining. That time, or the Lord has spoken to you 3 times. It is raining. You are still walking in the rain. As for today, I must see her. Now, the Lord is protecting you from a problem, using your environment to speak to you, and you are not even able to discern. Your inability to discern. And let me tell you something, pastors, and not just pastors, everybody. Sometimes, instead of the Lord to speak to you audibly, as a man of God, as a woman of God, the Lord can use your wife, the attitude of your wife. You are ready to go on a journey. You have prepared, only to come out and your wife is not smiling. She is angry all of a sudden. Discern your environment. It is not all the time the devil is against you. Sometimes God can be the one standing in front of you. Why can't you hear the voice, the knock of God? He said, I stand at the gate and I knock. Call. He that heareth my voice, not my knock, my voice. So some of these things, you should understand that this is the Lord speaking. And we call it the prophetic room. Understanding everything that speaks around your environment. If you do not understand these things, you will think that the Lord is against you or the devil is fighting you.